First, I want a little bit of insight from you guys. Don't worry about that. That's from a lecture thing there. No, we're not doing that. Sorry. Hold on, everybody. I don't know how it's got in here. That's what I wanted. Okay. This is from, by the way, continuing ed course. That's why it had some review in there and stuff like that. It's very typical continuing ed course. Is reflexology fact? Is it fiction? Is it science? Is it religion? I invite you to raise your hands and speak up. If you give the wrong answer, you'll be heavily chastised. No, I'm kidding. Ms. Savarino, fact, fiction, science, or religion?
I would say it's more like the religion, but like also science side. It's more like the metaphysics of life.
I like that.
More of like, what's beyond, not like material, but like
got you.
Spiritual and energetic,
Got you. It's like kind of, and in your world, that is science, right? In a way, right? Like, yeah, it's metaphysics. That was well explained. Anybody else? By the way, I'm not saying I agree with Ms. Savarino. I'm just saying well explained. Ms. Avalos, please.
It could one of any of these categories, depending on who you ask and who you're talking to, but you asked my opinion. So I do believe it is a religious practice. There's many cultures and religions all over the world that believe the feet are sacred.
That's true.
I believe in divine healing. So could you be a conduit to bring healing through reflexology of the feet? Absolutely. Scientifically, there's so much stuff going on the other side of your foot. There's the fascial chain. There's a major lymph system plexus. There is 7,000 nerve endings. And if you compress a nerve, you're going to get a signal and a response. So in my world, it's a fact.
Oh my God, another fantastic answer. I don't know why I'm surprised. Thank you, Ms. Avalos. Ms. Carrillo, fact, fiction, science, religion?
So I'm coming in as a perspective of someone who doesn't know reflexology.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the religion side of it or things like that, but I don't know the proper words, but science-wise, I guess, I do know that when points are touched in the feet, it does do something to the body. I felt like the things that are pointed at, touched at the feet is affected my upper leg and even into my upper body. And also there was another thing. There was another thing and I can't remember it. No, I forgot it. It's gone. It was a good answer, I promise.
I believe you. It was already a good answer. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. Mr. Richards.
I took and out, but same with Avalo, they're all of the above, and it's who you're talking to and what their beliefs are. But some people would think it's a fact, fiction, so, it depends who the person is. But all of the above, I'd say.
I love that answer too. Yeah. Mr. Bose.
I third that with Ms. Avalos and Mr. Richards. Definitely about the perspective of the person that you're speaking with. But for me personally, I think it's a fact. There were some of my clients that I had who get reflexology done pretty often. So there was somebody who was like, oh, something with his lungs, but he was having a difficult time breathing. So he was telling me to spot on the foot, like press and hold, because it makes a difference for him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that makes a difference for you, and you notice that difference within yourself, it's not, I'm placing pressure on these certain points, then maybe it really could do something for other people too. So
I love that. Yeah, great answer. Yeah, proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Miss Carrillo, did you remember?
I remember it was veins. So the veins, it's like the blood, the cardiovascular, it has to go all the way through your body. And I remember because I was listening to this podcast about anatomy, and it goes down to the foot and it has to make its way up. So it's also, it has to go down to the foot, and that's where a lot of the points are at too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like releasing some open passageways if I, think about it that way.
Sure.
So that's what it was.
Mr. Overman, please.
So I'm a experience it to believe it type of guy, so I'm coming from an ignorant perspective here.
No, you're
And
not.
I'm going
Please.
Well, I'm going with fiction for now, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying my mind can't be changed.
Yeah, a
Just-
bunch of fiction. Forget about fiction, bunch of hogwash.
I mean, it seems gimmicky, but again,
Yeah.
I have no experience with it,
Yeah,
so my mind can be changed. We'll see.
cool. Thank you, sir. Ms. Savarino.
I forgot. I'm also gonna add facts because whenever I did my study on the pineal gland for that presentation,
Oh, yes.
I remember
We'll never
reading
forget that.
about like meditating on your tippy toes and people having like deeper experiences because of the point in your toes for the pineal gland.
That's
And then
true.
whenever I went to the Healing Institute, I got this like chart on reflexology, so I'm gonna bring it in class today. I just want to say that before.
My memory of you is always going to be you lifting up something and being like, this book, this crystal, this thing, it's awesome. I'm like,
I'll
making
take
me, yeah, I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, cool. Mr. Craven, please, sir.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same vein as,
Mr. Overman?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I can read your mind.
But like, I also think that like it's the power of your mind is a lot like it doesn't get enough credit,
Yes.
and kind of like it just so happened that the mother of reflexology, maybe she was studying the zones or whatever. Like it could have been anything. Like it could have been
Right.
15 zones. It could have been 20 zones. It could have been anything. It just so happened that somebody came up with this structure for it. But I think that like if you kind of will your mind into anything and you truly believe that like I'm touching this, so it's affecting this, like
Yeah.
that can kind of manifest itself too.
I love that. That's almost kind of I don't know, like a middle road approach. You're like saying, well, if you think it and feel it, then it kind of is it. You know what I mean? Like it's a really interesting, yeah, I love that. Like fiction becomes fact if you believe it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is good. Miss Young, please.
So I'm gonna kind of hop on like Mr. Bosa's opinions and stuff. So not everything like helps everyone. Like
Sure.
some people like when you rub a certain part. Some people don't like when you rub a certain part. But I've never had reflexology or anything, and so I'm sure like there could be totally like some sort of like fact behind it, like, and just not everyone likes it or doesn't. And especially if you're closed-minded, then it's definitely not gonna work for you.
Good. So that's kind of Mr. Bose and kind of Mr. Craven and kind of like some of the other comments we heard from 3 other people. Yeah. Yeah, but I get you. Good point. All really good points. I love it. Thank you. Miss Pugh.
Yes, I think it's more like a kind of like a treatment, like physical therapy, or maybe some kind of therapy that you do to like fix a problem. I don't really see it as a religion because, like the book said, different types of religions like can look at the feet. But I think because like everyone goes to the doctor, everyone has a different religion, every religion has religion. And so like, I guess it's not really like a religion thing because everyone, can do it no matter what religion you are. So I think it's more like a therapy type thing, like a treatment thing.
Yeah, if I heard you right, one of the things I really like about what you said too is it doesn't necessarily have to be a magical I push a button on your foot thing and this happens, but that doesn't mean it's not therapeutic and I push this area in your foot and over time it happens. Like there's kind of a middle road in there, yes. So a therapy that works for some reason. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, and then also because there's a science of it. I think the body, definitely your anatomy and the nervous system and all that is included in it.
Sure.
It's kind of like a science as well.
Sure. Yeah. Got you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Clayton.
So, I went to Bodies in Motion. That I'm sure you've been there. It's like a exhibit where they have all these dissected bodies. And one of the little exhibits there is of the nervous system, and so basically they just have the nerves floating in air, so you see like the body's gone, but just the nervous system. And they're all pathways. It's like electricity, right? So I think of it as the Christmas tree lights, like the old ones where one light goes out, the whole string goes out. And your nervous system to me is somewhat like that. So I do think it's scientific because like the nerves from your toe run all the way up into your spinal column. And so they're touching upon other things in that journey. So I do think that it makes sense. And our feet and our hands have so many nerve endings, and they're like major receptors for our body to know what's going on. So I think there's definite science behind it, but I do think the person receiving it has to be open to it as well. Because I know I've gotten it a couple times, just little bits here and there, and I definitely feel referred pain, in different areas. So I know, and just like when we're pressing on other muscles, you can get referred pain.
Sure.
So it's connected. So I do think there's truth and science behind it.
I love that. I love the Christmas light analogy. I'm going to use that for other stuff. That's amazing. Thank you. Miss Hendrickson.
Yeah, everyone has such good points.
Really, like everyone, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there was like a religious aspect. I think Miss Avalos touched on this about the feet being sacred, and that like washing someone's feet is a pretty common like part of stories as far as like religious text goes.
Biblical stories. I mean, Christ washed people's feet. Like, this is a big deal. This is actually one of the things I love about feet is I think it's a very humbling way to meet a body.
Yeah, and
Very beautiful.
it's like a connection, and also we didn't always wear shoes, so I think our feet probably used to be even more sensitive, like our fingertips. It's like you can feel things so delicately, so precisely with their fingertips. We probably used to have a lot more connections in the feet. So now we probably don't think about it too much if they're in our socks and shoes all day, but if we were walking around barefoot and touching everything with the skin of our feet like we do the skin of our hands, it would probably have more connections and be more aware of them.
Yeah.
Every day as well.
I love it. Got it.
Not really.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. I'm sorry, it was either Mr. Lee or Miss Lee had their hand up for a second. I want to make sure. Yes, please, talk to us.
I believe it's the science.
You believe it's a science.
Because this doctor says all your foot, the acupoint connect your organ. So I did maybe thousands foot massage. After the 95%, they all fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's something worse,
Yeah. So you believe it's a science, you believe it's tied to acupressure points that connect to organs in your body and such, which is kind of a Chinese medicine belief. Yeah, very much so. And a belief about half the world, by the way. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. All right. So thank you, by the way, everybody, for answering this question. It's an unanswerable question. You guys took away my entire lecture, honestly, by answering it this way. When I do this for continuing ed, people argue over whether it's definitely a fact, definitely fiction, definitely science, definitely religion. And you all did a great job of capturing it. Depends on who you are, right? And I do that because we have to be careful with things like this. For some people, reflexology is a religion. I mean, they come in and it's like, oh, and they're very excited about getting it. And other people think it's black magic and they get very upset if you're super into reflexology. I really do mean that. Like, some people, they're very religiously conservative in a particular way. It doesn't matter if you're religiously conservative, but in a particular way where this seems like a religion against their religion. So that can cause problems. So you have to know your audience. That's why I bring up this question in the beginning. Other people look at it as a science. I thought what I really loved here is that what I heard was the possibility that really it could be all of those things. That depends on our semantics, which means the words we use. Right? So when we use things like energy pathways, does that mean spirit, chi, nervous system, lymph, All those are energies moving through your body. So sometimes we get caught up in the words and stuff. So I'm always very careful when I'm talking to my client to make sure I talk to my client in a language they understand. You know, when somebody comes into me from a run and they're sweaty and I can tell they're a professional runner and they're like, why should I get regular massage? I talk about how it's going to improve their performance. You know, when somebody else comes in, and I'm not trying to be like stereotype here, but just give you an idea, and they've got a crystal around their neck and they smell like patchouli, I talk about how massage might kind of like align their energies. I'm not lying. I believe both those things, but I try to talk in the language they would understand. And so I'm careful with reflexology. If somebody's like, oh, it's a bunch of hogwash, I'm like, okay, maybe. Do you like having your feet rubbed? Oh, yeah, I love that. Well, let's do that. And if they're really into reflexology, then we focus more on the points and things like that. Ms. Suriel, you have your hand up.
Okay, I just want to add a little bit more of what you're saying. I believe that something that has lasted for more than 5,000 years and that it's been used for several countries around the globe now, including now United States, which is not been mentioned in the book, it has to have a certain power or effect where it makes part of science.
Yeah.
I think also about the placebo effect,
yes,
which a lot of people believe on things that scientifically cannot have any effect on human health. But if you believe that you're gonna drink a cup of water and you're gonna be cured, a lot of people have done that and they get cured.
I agree.
Now, on the other side, we think that if let's say someone has cancer and go to the doctor and the doctor recommends a treatment, that treatment may not work because it's proof if you don't believe on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of factors, but I think one of the most powerful tools that we have is that reflexology is something that it will not hurt you.
Yeah.
So when we are sick, when people is really, really, really sick,
yeah,
you will do everything. I've met people that they do the unthinkable. Sometimes I even laugh about what they do. So, and here we're not telling them, okay, you gotta drink this pill or something. No, it's just something that it doesn't hurt you. So why not to try it, regardless if you believe or not.
I love it. Yeah, Ms. Suri, I'll just point out one of my favorite things about massage that I actually use with clients all the time. They say, hey, will you fix my shoulder with this massage? I say, I don't know. But like before you get surgery or before you do this thing, you know, if the massage doesn't work, you're out a couple $100. Like nothing lost. Nobody ever leaves worse from massage. Really, nobody ever leaves. It never hurts to try. Yeah, I really appreciate that. You're absolutely right. And by the way, don't forget this belief factor. This is the reason, by the way, why it's very important to tell clients at the end of the session what you've done to them. Hey, you came in and your back was really tight. I loosened that up. You can probably feel that now, right? You're telling them the truth, but they need to hear it in their head, right? And so the nerves might still be a little bit irritated, so it might still ache, but as you rest tonight, it'll probably feel better tomorrow. You need to insert that idea in your head. You're not lying to them. You're trying to tell them a new story because they've been walking around the story of their hurt back for 2 years. And you are changing it, and you need to tell them that story. And not because it's a lie, because it's the truth, right? How many of yeah, go ahead, Ms. Suriel, please.
I also believe that we humans, we barely, even if science say it's too advanced about us, the reality is that they don't even know like 50% of what we are. What if when you took that reflexology massage or whatever it's called, you were not in the right set of mind, you took some pills, your chemicals in your body are not acting properly.
Sure.
So I think it's just too many things in our body going on for something to work or not work. Our body, I believe, is too complicated.
Sure.
We are so connected to our brain that if we will really discover how can we make our brain to work to be connected to our body, we think it's just both things separately working, but it's not. It's just amazing.
Right. No, very good point. We have definitely not discovered even, I wouldn't even say half of the stuff about the human body. Yeah, don't forget that modern medical science has been around about 100 years, and less than 100 years ago, we were still using leeches. Actually, we still use them now, but for different reasons. But we were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So we were still doing bloodletting and things like that. So the fact is, we don't know what we're doing. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's a lot left to be discovered and all that good stuff. Ms. Hendrickson, yes, ma'am.
Oh yeah, just another point about the power of the mind, because hypnosis used to be used for surgery before like general anesthesia was invented. So it was very, very effective. And also I read in the book about massage, that massage was more commonly prescribed before like World War I or II, I think it was, when they started having more like topical pain relief and more access to pain relief, then they stopped using massage as much. But you know, just all these things that have been around for a long, long time before modern medicine. It's really fascinating. But the brain, how you can actually like heal yourself with hypnosis, like the power, the concentrated focus of that part of your brain is actually making a difference in your health by just focusing on it. So that's really amazing.
It's super amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I suspect everybody in this class believes that your thinking affects your world. Just the question as to what degree. Does it affect everything or some stuff? Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Young.
So, like, more of the, like, kind of mind part of it, like, mind over matter, like, if you have a cut on your hand and you don't see it, you usually don't feel it. Like, you don't know it's there, so it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And then when you finally see it, you're like, oh, now that hurts. So I think it's just a lot of, like, what you think.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you guys overly made my point and stole some of my lecture from me, but let's move on. In a good way, by the way. The fact is, this can be interpreted a lot of different ways. You guys have already touched on a really interesting thing, too, which is we don't know very much about the human body. So reflexology could work 100%, but for different reasons than we actually think, too, right? Like, we often do things that work and later find out that they work for a different reason than what we originally thought, because people in life is so complex. Reflexology points are just the concept that there are points in your foot that correspond to other points in your body. Now, we can argue about why they correspond. Maybe well, we'll get to that in a second. But the concept is that your foot is essentially a holographic image of your body. That my foot is actually a representation of my body, and that parts of my foot, therefore, represent all over my body, and pushing on those parts helps to affect energetically or somehow affect other parts of my body. That's the concept of reflexology. And there are practices that resemble reflexology dating back to China and Egypt, 5,000 years back. But I do want to be clear about one thing. Reflexology is a very new invention. Working on people's feet and acupressure points and meridians and all this kind of stuff, that's a very old concept. But the reflexology chart we use, the idea of reflexology itself, is a very new practice. It's probably based on a very old idea. So sometimes people are like, oh, the Egyptians did reflexology. That's not really true. The Egyptians seem to do some type of foot massage. We didn't get the chart from there. We have no idea whether they thought these same spots corresponded to things. We have actually no reason to believe that. Mr. Richards.
So is reflexology just the feet, or is it the same as trigger points where you've got them behind your ears, in your hands? Is reflexology just the feet, or is it?
Depends on who you talk to, but a lot of people say feet, hands, and ears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I don't know about the ears, especially because I haven't done a lot of it. I've rubbed ears before, but I haven't done it with that kind of intention. But there are charts for feet, hands, and ears that correspond to the whole body. Yeah. Mr. Bose.
Is face a part of it too?
Well, I mean, there are technically supposed to be reflexology points all over your entire body. But where you get this kind of holographic thing, it's usually feet, hands, and ears. And Miss Avalos makes a very good point that I was about to make too. Quit stealing my lecture. No, Miss Avalos, I'm teasing. I love it. I love you guys. This is very different than when I teach this for continuing ed. So you guys are way ahead of everybody. There's different charts out there too. They roughly correspond. But it's not like they're completely opposite. But it's an art, not a science in that sense. Like, don't be like, oh, you're off 1 millimeter here, you're on a different point. It depends on what chart you look at. Yeah, totally. There's some cultural differences here. Yeah. So there are several interpretations of reflexology, which you guys talked about. Western reflexology is a fairly new invention. It's about 100 years old, right? It's kind of based off this zone therapy, which is this idea your body's divided up into zones. And I know many massage therapists actually massage based on zone therapy, and it's not such a crazy idea. And I'll explain that in just a second. But I just want to point out that reflexology, as we know it with this chart, is actually a very modern invention. Now, there are, by the way, very old world sciences coming from China, especially, where they've had recorded medical history basically for 5,000 years that definitely refer to important points in your feet, but they don't match the reflexology chart. They believe in that correspondence between points in your feet to organs in your body. So it's not a far-fetched idea based on that. Zone therapy is this, and the idea is like the outside of my foot corresponds to the whole outside of my body. Well, from a structural point of view, that's not a crazy idea even, right? If you're looking at a building, you might look at the whole wall all the way up. And so lots of people do massage based on zone therapy. Like if you have a shoulder problem, they kind of work this whole side of your body, kind of this belief that it's all kind of tied together. And there could be a lot of different reasons for that, which you all kind of touched on here. But let's move on a little bit. Eastern reflexology is not reflexology, by the way, so I mean no disrespect there. But this idea that there is an energetic flow through your body, right? And anytime I say this to non-believers, they go, well, I don't know about this energy flow. And I'm like, do you believe in a soul? And many of them say, yeah. Well, that's something you can't see that has a life essence to it. This is kind of the same concept as that. And you're right, we could be lost in semantics. Maybe it's your nervous system flow. Maybe it's your lymphatic flow. Maybe it's your blood flow. All these are energies going through your body. But this Eastern reflexology-ish thing has been around a very long time. Just be very clear, it was not based on the charts that are here today at all. But this idea that you can affect different areas of the body through pressure points has been around a very long time. That part is very, very true. And as Ms. Suriel, I believe, pointed out too, that when things have been around for 5,000 years and seem to keep working, that is a little bit of evidence in and of itself. There's no doubt about that. This is just an idea of meridians, actually, and such. We'll have a test on these at the end of class. No, we will not. I'm just teasing. All right. Some of my ideas about reflexology, by the way, and I'm not suggesting these are correct, and I'm not just trying to play it safe. I just want to give you another thought process. And some of you touched on this too. We all have these fascial lines. We have this fascia wrapping around our entire body, and like that tall tower there, they all have to tie in somewhere. And where do they tie into? My feet. And we will later find out that you have fascial lines running that literally stirrup your feet from side to side and front to back, because you have to tie me down to my feet to make this tower work that I'm standing on. There's nowhere else to tie this tower except to my feet. And if those fascial lines become tight and stuff like that, that could affect other areas of my body. So it's just not a far-fetched idea that feet have some connection to my body. As you all pointed out, probably hard to tell which connection or which connections, because there could be multiple reasons. Oh, by the way, this is just about fascial lines. We'll get into this later. There's your gluteus maximus, by the way, tying into your tensor fasciae lata, into your IT band, and down into your tibialis anterior and wrapping it underneath your foot and coming back up. That's a stirrup fascial line. We'll get to that later. So, you guys already made this point for me. Can't we all just get along? Meaning, can't we bring this all together? Can't I do reflexology for the non-believer that's a really great foot rub? Can't I do reflexology for the believer that really helps? Can't I ride somewhere in the middle of that because it seems to work, but I don't know why? Can I claim ignorance and still do it? Yeah, all of that. And the really big point is you want to, because there's money in reflexology. It's okay to, thank you, Mr. Craven. It's okay to heal the world and make some money too. Please don't feel like you're not allowed to make money, like it's not spiritual to make money. It's okay. It's probably not spiritual to deceive people to make money, but it's completely spiritual to do an awesome reflexology and make money. Here's my favorite thing about reflexology. Mr. Craven is my regular client. I don't know if you guys know this, he comes to me it's because I can see you, sir, right now. I'm looking at you. He comes to me all the time for my wonderful massage. He pays $100 an hour to me for my wonderful massage. And he asked me about this reflexology, and I guarantee this will happen to you a lot. And I say, I can add on reflexology onto your massage. We'll do a little half-hour reflexology at the end, right? Which, by the way, means I don't have to work his feet during the hour. Now I've got even a little more time for his body, and I've got a whole half an hour. And at the end of his hour-long massage, I sit down, because what's the hardest part of massage? It's standing for 6 hours. It's not the rubbing. That's hard, but the standing. I sit down at his feet, and I make an extra $50 because it's another half an hour rubbing his feet. Mr. Craven loves it. He loves it. Now he's coming back for 90-minute massages all the time. Do I care if he loves it because it's a great foot rub, because it cured his whatever, because it's a science, religion, whatever? Whatever. He loves it. Reflexology is an excellent way to extend your massage. It is a value-added thing. But let me tell you one better, right? Let me tell you what really happened with Mr. Craven. Mr. Craven was my regular client, right? He's a little bit tight with money. I'm so great he was willing to pay the $100 for the 1 hour massage, but I really couldn't get him to ever go more than that, right? And so what I said to Mr. Craven, because I wanted new clients, because I'm a new massage therapist who just graduated from Gateway, so I said, hey, Mr. Craven, every time you send me a referral, if they book just one time, I will tack on a free reflexology onto your massage afterwards. Now, Mr. Craven's, he's kind of a cheapskate. So he was like, yeah, free half hour, but he's got a lot of friends because he's a funny guy. So I think that somehow gets you a lot of friends. Anyway, so he refers friends to me, and he loves this. By the way, you'll get, I don't know if Mr. Craven's like this, but you'll get a client like this who's like, ding, 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 ding. He sends me 10 friends. And every time he comes to get a massage, he gets a 90-minute massage for the price of a 1 hour. But what did I get? I got a full paying client. This is called a value added option. Discounts and I will say this again when we do our business section, this is the number one best piece of business advice I can give you, period. Discounts don't motivate people as effectively as value added does. Discounts are, Mr. Craven, I'll give you 20% off your massage if you refer a client to me. It just doesn't sound that great. Mr. Craven, I will give you a 50% longer massage. I will give you a free reflexology treatment for 30 minutes if you send just one person to me. Wow. What did the 20% off the massage cost me? $20. What did the free reflexology cost me? Nothing but time, and I've got time right now because I don't have clients. And I don't have to give it to them unless I got a referral, and they had to book. So that client booked $100, and I just had to give out a free half hour. Now, by the way, even though I'm this great massage therapist, of the 10 clients he referred to me, only 2 will probably stay as regular clients. It's just the way it goes, right? The other 8 just don't want to spend $100 every month or whatever. I might hear from them once in a while at Christmas or things like that, but you know, they'll be okay in the background, but they won't become regular clients. I'd be, so don't feel bad, guys. I'd be lucky to capture just 2 of those, but I got paid for all 10. I got $1,000. I kept 2 of those clients. They're now worth $5,000 a year to me. And Mr. Craven just got 10 90-minute massages. Guess what happens almost every time he runs out of friends? And he will. I know he's charming, but he's only got so many friends. He'll run out of them. He's now addicted to 90-minute massages, and I've had this happen time and time again. He goes, to hell with it. Let's just do 90 minutes all the time. Now he starts paying for the 90-minute massages that I was giving him for free. That's why I like reflexology. I also like reflexology for this reason too. Mr. Craven, a lot of people don't know this about him too, but he likes to suntan a lot. And he's kind of a big drinker. And so sometimes he'll fall asleep while suntanning. I don't know, we got a big story here. He'll fall asleep while suntanning, and then he gets burned, sunburned. And he comes to me for his massage, but he can't be touched. And he's like, maybe we should just cancel. I don't want to cancel. I've been counting on his money. So I say, hey, today let's just do a reflexology. We can do a half-hour treatment. Reflexology, and I still get $50 from Mr. Sunburned, Mr. Craven. Yep. Or Mr. Craven comes to me and says, hey, I got a car wreck. I kind of got whiplash. I'm really not supposed to get massage. Or I've got a low-grade fever. And by the way, your book says don't touch anybody at all, low-grade fever. But, you know, Tapscott, he's a little sketchy. I still want to do that massage. But I don't want to rub his whole body because he does have a low-grade fever. That's not the right thing to do. What do? A little foot rub. Not moving a lot of fluid, not affecting a lot of things, still able to say yes to the client. So you guys have to very carefully measure these situations. I'm not saying in all situations you should do this. I'm telling you this gives me an option to elongate my massage, to give a value-added option for people's referrals, to give me something to do when somebody has another problem that's going to prevent me from doing a massage. I also used to, last thing, and I'll call on some people here, I also used to have a very, very large lady that came to me for massage. She was very freaked out. She didn't want to be touched. She didn't want to take her clothes off. And I said, well, we could just do reflexology. And she goes, what's that? I go, I'm just going to rub your feet, hands, and head and neck if you're okay with it. All the tips of your body. And I did that for an hour. She would fly it. Now, she had other business here. It's not quite as impressive as it sounds. But she would fly in from New York, and we would do a 2-hour session where I worked on her feet, hands, head, and neck. Sat down through the whole thing. She loved it. We had the most delightful conversations. I think it did her a lot of good, and it didn't feel invasive. It's a wonderful, non-invasive thing, which gets back to the washing of the feet stuff, right? It's a very safe place to work on somebody from. Okay. Thank you guys for your patience. Mr. Bose, you had your hand raised for some time. Sorry, ma'am. She's fallen asleep. She's like, I give up.
I think that was actually from a long time ago.
Oh, good. Okay. Mr. Richards.
So do you teach us like points for reflexology?
Yeah,
because I got an email from AMTA that they're doing a 6-hour thumb-free course on reflexology.
Yeah.
In January the 15th.
Sure.
But do we have to go somewhere else to get that training so we know where the points are and things, or do we learn it in this class?
No, you're going to learn it right this second.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, actually, let me answer Mr. Richards' question, because that's the next question, right? So, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you this too. Forget about reflexology, just foot rubs. Any of your clients, anybody know anybody who wears these things? These kind of cute little high heel things, yeah. Anybody know anybody who wears these things and they have a red sole on the bottom? Because, yeah, yeah, I've got some friends that wear those with a red sole on the bottom. Those shoes cost $1,000 a pop. And guess what?
The Louis Vuitton.
Yes. And guess what? Those clients can afford a lot of massage, and those clients' feet hurt. Yeah. So that, by the way, look at what's happening in the foot here too. The arch cannot. By the way, there's nothing wrong with high heels. Just don't wear them all the time. This is not a treatise against high heels. But look where the force of the body goes. There is no flex available in this. They just slam right down into their metatarsals. And so this person needs a foot massage. Needs a foot massage. So, and this is a lot of your clients, right? Okay. So I'm about to get to you, Mr. Richards, really quickly. Why could this work? You guys all said this stuff. Just to recap, reflexology, I think it does work. I just suspect we're not quite sure why it works. And it might work for any one of these reasons. It might work for other reasons I haven't thought of, and it might work for all of these reasons. It might work because your ankle and foot contains 34 joints, and they're very complex, and it's a really big deal. It might work, as Ms. Clayton was talking about, the extensive nerve distribution that goes through your feet. It might work because of your lymphatic system. You know, lymphatic system is a low pressure system. Where does your lymph pool? Your lymph pool's in your feet. That's where it is. Most of your lymph pools, if it can't get back up. Getting that junk out of there could help. It might work because of your foot position actually sends information to your central nervous system. It actually sends structural information to my central nervous system. If things are skitty-wampus down there, that messes up everything. It might work because of meridians, these rivers of energy running through me that are in most Eastern medicine that have been documented for 5,000 years. It might work because of zone therapy theory or the fascial therapy that goes along with zone therapy. It might just work because, darn it, they're the foundation to your body. And as all of you hinted at, it might work because it makes you feel better. I don't know about you guys, but all of my problems aren't really problems. They're just things I feel bad about. And when I feel better about them, they're not problems anymore. So making somebody feel better is not hocus pocus. It's really making somebody feel better. So all of that is possible. And a whole lot of other reasons. Yeah. And Ms. Avalos even mentioned this. I think several of you did. It also is an opportunity for divine healing. You know, it really is an opportunity to connect with somebody in this beautiful, subservient, and I mean this in a good way right now, subservient manner where I am coming to them and holding their feet and nurturing them and taking care of them and loving them. And that is a very healing experience. So, Mr. Richards, though, wants to know about the points, and he is right to ask, because some clients will ask. Forget about rub. Hold on a second. Here is a semi-typical reflexology chart. Ms. Avalos was right, by the way. There are many different ones. They all roughly agree, but these points move around a little bit. Okay, Mr. Richards, do you have that memorized?
I've just took a snapshot.
Good, okay. Memorize that. There's a test on that. No, there's not a test on that. So here's the cool thing about reflexology. And by the way, I'm not trying to diminish your education, but I don't believe in wasting your brain power on things that aren't important. So if all the charts are slightly different, then what you need to know is what they're all generally based off of, right? If anybody ever comes along and says, oh, you're not on the lung point, it's a millimeter over here, baloney. On your chart it is, on my chart it's over here. It's in a general area they all agree on, but what we really need to understand is how is the chart made in the first place? Remember, it's a hologram of the body. That is actually how the chart is designed. So the big toe on the left foot is the left side of your head. The big toe on the right foot is the right side of your head. And almost every last chart agrees on that. And that was just one example. This body here, the shoulders really are the little pinky toes, basically. Now, there are a few things that you kind of need to know along with this, but this is very accurate. The base of your big toe on your left side is the left side of your neck. The base of your big toe on your right side is the right side of your neck. It really is a hologram of your body. That's the concept behind reflexology. I'm telling you that because I think reflexology really works, but I'm not sure all the points are exactly where they are or they're all the same on everybody. They're in a general vicinity. And so I think it's silly to actually sit there and memorize a chart when there's another one that's slightly different and all that kind of stuff. But they'll all agree about the big toe being here. They'll all agree that the lungs are in the middle. They'll all agree that the stomach is down lower. They'll all agree that the spine is on the inside edges of both feet, because that's where my spine would be if I lined up both my feet. This picture tells you everything you need to know about point recognition and reflexology. Everything. Everything. I mean, there are some little stuff like sinuses or the tips of your toes, but they're up there by the nose up there. This really is, I'm not trying to oversimplify this. What I'm trying to do is not get wed to a chart that was made by a person who's fallible when there's another chart over here that's slightly different. But they will all agree on this general layout. And that's a beautiful thing. So I worry in my reflexology about doing really, really good footwork and being in the general areas the person's having a problem with, as opposed to looking at my chart and being like, am I right there? Right there. So now I'll go back to the chart. But I just wanted to kind of explain that to you. So when Ms. Savarino was talking about the pineal gland in your head, well, that's on the big toe because it's in your head, right? When people are having neck problems, you work around the base of the big toe. When people are having lung problems, you kind of work in the upper foot. When they're having intestinal problems, you work in the middle arch of the foot. When they're having spinal problems, you work on the insides of the foot. When they're having hip problems, you work on the outsides of the foot. Like it's very much, it really is supposed to be a hologram of the body. So don't forget that. You can literally just put up people's feet in front of their body. That's supposed to image essentially their upper body, basically. People even say the heel in the back actually represents the legs and things like that. But this gives you a really good layout. Okay. Now if we go back, here's a great example. By the way, they're trying to show you this in this chart, that the toes essentially go to the head stuff. I hope you can see that, especially on the foot side. Yeah. And by the way, you'll notice that the back of the heel is kind of around this gentleman's reproductive organs. Some people believe in reflexology that you should avoid the inside of the ankles. Well, because that's where the reproductive organs would be kind of associated. It's down between the feet, since they divide the body in half, way down by the heel. So that's where these ideas come from. Boom. Now when we go back and look at a really confusing chart like this, it all of a sudden starts to make a lot more sense. We've got the head up here. Here's your pituitary gland, which is a gland that's right in the center of your head. Here's your cervicals, your neck. What runs down right from my head all the way down my body? My spine. I have a spine on both sides running down here, right? As I get down low, here's the sacrum or the sciatica. By the way, different charts put this differently. Some will say the sciatica is all the way down at the bottom of the heel here, but it's down in this area. Where are my intestines? They're in the middle, right? Why is the liver only shown on the right side? Because the liver is only on the right side of your body. So that's where you do need to know your anatomy. You've got adrenal glands over both your kidneys on both sides of your body, right? Look at the kidneys down below both sides of your body, right? Bladder down here. This really is a map of your body. It really is. Shoulders, kind of over here. This guy's got a right shoulder or girl and a left shoulder. Yeah? Lung and breast tissue right in the middle here. Boom, boom, boom. Yep. Cool. So I don't look at a reflexology chart when I'm doing reflexology. And when somebody says, what point is that? I say, well, we're in the general vicinity of your head. And they go, what do you mean? You don't know exactly? I'm like, no, I don't. And they tend to believe me even more because I'm being honest. I go, it depends on what chart you look at. But I know we're in the general vicinity of your head right now. I know we're in the general vicinity of your chest, which would be your lungs and your heart and all that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. And this is so much easier than, and better in some ways, than just being wed to this kind of idea that stuff is just in one place only, and that it couldn't possibly be up a half an inch. I mean, for example, who here in this class has legs in the same proportion to their arms as everybody else in class? None of you do. We're all different. So why would you think? I know that the intestines aren't up in the big toe. I'm not suggesting that, but the fact that they would shift a tiny bit on somebody, of course they would. Because your guys' intestines are in a slightly different place than mine. We know if we go digging in my abdomen, you're going to find them. And I know that in all of you, but they're going to be slightly different. And the size of my abdomen and the size of my thoracic region, the length of my legs is all different. So anyway, that's my big plea to that. That's why, sir, you might enjoy taking the reflexology class, Mr. Richards, but I don't think you need to take it. And licensure-wise, you don't need to take it. I'm going to show you, by the way, how to do thumbless reflexology. There you go. Don't use your thumb. Actually, the one real big trick is people use thumbs towards the feet like this because I'm rubbing a foot, right? If I turn around and the foot's in my hand this way, I can use my fingers. So I often have the client behind me and I'm sitting down here and I'm working on their feet with my 8 fingers. And that's actually how I do thumbless reflexology. And it gives me a very powerful handhold. Yeah. So that was a 6-hour training in 6 minutes. You're welcome. I'll send you a bill. Miss Green.
Will you be able to show us, like, in person some techniques so
Yes.
that we can actually, like, physically see it?
Yes, I have to come in and show you all. In fact, I'm going to schedule it here soon. Some hip stuff and some feet stuff. Yeah, I promised somebody who's nodding that I would show hip stuff. So, yeah,
Nice.
it'll be lit.
So I've been like incorporating stretching and stuff into my like massages, and I want to show you what I already do, but I want tips on more to do.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'll do my best. The reason I said I'll do my best is I've seen some of you do stuff I've never even thought of before, and I've been doing this a long time. But you guys are getting really creative. But yeah, I'll do my best. Sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for caring. I love it. Okay, so moving right along. So this next chart is not to show you a chart, it's to show you why it's actually important to kind of understand the general concepts so that you don't spend your whole time memorizing charts. Hey, by the way, Mr. Richards, one good thing though about a reflexology class is they'll make you rub feet for 4 hours straight. That's what you really walk out of there. And there is something that occurs to you when you are bored. If I force you to stay, in fact, I would recommend to your lab teachers who could still be on this call that they have you guys do only feet today. But that's what I used. Yeah, Miss Savarino, you shush. You want your back done, of course. We're gonna do your back through your feet. But anyway, what happens is if you are forced to do feet for 2 hours, or an hour is not even nearly enough. 2 great things come out of it. One is you get bored as hell, and so you explore and figure out new stuff. We really do learn from being bored. And usually we just go on to something new, but if you can't go on to something new, you start looking deeper, more detailed, more nitpicky. The second thing is you really do want to be able to do an hour of very good work on every part of the body. By the time you graduate, you want to be able to do an hour of neck work, an hour of foot work, an hour of back work, an hour of leg work. You should be able to do a 4-hour massage without really kind of repeating stuff, you know what I mean, with really doing work. And it will come in handy because people do come in and say, I've had this happen many times, I want my feet worked on for an hour. That's it. I don't use tools at any point in the hour, no. But you can. I've had people use tie sticks and stuff on my feet for reflexology. Miss Avlos, yeah. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is just good old-fashioned foot rubs and how a foot is made. What if you're not big? I didn't see it. Your foot is actually made of 3 arches. So if you will look down at this example here, we all know the arch of our foot this way. We all know this arch. But what we don't realize is that our foot is actually kind of folded over and has an arch flapping over both ways. It's an arch really in 3 directions. It's 2 going over and then this folding over in the middle, because your foot is supposed to smush out when you walk and go psh, psh, psh. And it does. I know for a fact it does, because if it didn't at all, if it didn't squish into the fascia, you'd break your foot bones every day, because your foot bones are pretty tiny. And if you think about what kind of impact they take when you run, jump, walk, all that kind of stuff, they're able to do that because of the springiness of them. So pay attention to the arch of the foot when you're rubbing a foot, just from a good foot rubbing point of view. Really rubbing. And one other thing, remember that a lot of the important muscles of a foot actually attach in the heel. A lot of people rub the foot and go over the heel. Try to rub the foot and go into the heel. And let me give you a different picture to make my point. This is an actual foot. This is fascia on the bottom of the foot. It provides the springiness. When people get plantar fasciitis, This is the stuff that gets inflamed on them, provides a springiness to their foot. It's everywhere. But there we go. This is a cross-section of an actual foot. I know it's kind of mind-blowing. I love Miss Savarino. She gives me the best like feedback stuff. Anyway, this is what we rub. A lot of people rub the surface of the foot, but there's soft tissue. You don't hit bone till here. So look at the distance in here. So when I rub, I often rub from here, and I try to hit here. I don't try to go over the heel right away because I'm missing what's in here, the arch support muscles and the fascia. Foot bones are actually fairly tiny. You've got to get into this stuff. So I drive down into the heel, and I try to scrape off the heel and all that stuff. And by the way, all this fascia ties into your Achilles tendon, which goes directly into your calves. Your calves directly connect into your plantar fasciitis, and I mean directly. So that's just stuff to think about the depth of a foot and all that good stuff. And yes, I will come in and show some of that stuff, but I invite you to challenge yourself and work on places of the body for long periods of time. And when you're watching a movie with a significant other, have them put their feet in your lap and try to rub their feet for the whole movie. It will have multiple benefits for you. You will become a better massage therapist, and they will love you for the rest of your life. So that's multiple benefits right there. And thank you, Miss Avalos. It really is avascular down there. There's lots of places that don't get a lot of blood that pools, a lot of lymph that pools, and pushing that all back out and pumping that all back out, is amazing. And when your feet don't feel good, nothing feels good. Yeah? Really is true. So Mr. Ibarra always teases me because he's like, you're obsessed with feet. Well, yeah, I am. I'm totally obsessed with feet. But that's like saying you're obsessed with the foundations of skyscrapers. Yeah, because without them, there's no skyscraper. And you guys are all built. The shortest of you are a skyscraper, meaning you have a very tiny foundation with a very tall thing on top of it. Our feet are not that big, and we've got a lot of height going up. And so it's very, very, very significant just from a foundational point of view. All right, I am going to release fun homework. There's a test on reflexology that's from your book. There's also what's called an automated reflexology lesson here. The automated reflexology lesson is very different than the tests you've taken in the past from me. The automated reflexology lesson is based on what I just talked about today, and you can take it over and over again. So it's a test that's meant to teach you. It's not a test that's meant to test you. So it's trying to teach you the main points I made today, and so it's called automated reflexology test. The idea is I could have just given it to you, and it kind of makes my points for me. So if you don't like the score you get on it, take it again. If you don't like that score, you can take it again and again and again and again and again. It's unlimited. It's literally unlimited. So that's that. None of the other stuff's like that, but that's why it's that way. It's meant to be a teaching test. And then there is a video on the Deep 6 lateral hip rotators, because we're going to talk about those tomorrow because they're what's under the gluteus maximus. Yeah? Good stuff? Yeah. Okay. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Mr. Richards, please.
So when you're doing reflex